Hey folks, it's Rob Flux here for the very first Sunday session of the year, into the new year. And I guess our topic today is about how to dream big and to take massive action. And the reason for that is because we typically at the start of every year do some New Year's resolutions. And within a couple of weeks, a lot of us tend to fall off the bandwagon. So what I want to do is empower you so that you can set very big and very realistic goals and give you the action steps that you need in order to do that. So by doing this, I'm hoping that I can empower you to actually go and achieve your actual goals. Now, what I'm going to do today is a little bit different to how I normally do our presentations. So this is going to be a little bit more presentation mode. So you're going to get some PowerPoint slides and that sort of thing. So I'm going to do a lot more button clicking than usual. And so from time to time, I may fumble and make a mistake. So I'm asking for your good graces to do that. But in doing that, what I thought I'd do is actually give you some real world examples of some of the goals that I have set and how I've actually broken these down and how you can do the exact same thing yourself in order to achieve the massive goals that you want to do and empower yourself, I guess, to do whatever it is that you want to do. Now, let's start with, I guess, what is my mission statement, or my vision statement, I should say, for the business. This is what is called a big, hairy, audacious goal. So this is to have achieved financial freedom for 1,000 plus mum and dad investors by the year 2030 through our education, mentoring, and property development programs. Okay, so that is my vision statement for my business. Now, that is a massive, massive goal. And what I need to do is every single day take actions towards this goal by breaking it down into little steps and then going and actually actioning that. So there's little steps that I take every single day, plus I have bigger steps that I action for the entire year. So for example, my goals for this year, I want to release a book in March. Okay, so for those, this is the first news for you out there. So I've got a book that is 3/4 written. It's just in the final stages, getting some touch-ups at the moment, and is then going to go to print in the next couple of weeks. So that's going to be out in March. So watch out for that actually coming out. I'm going to be expanding the Property Developer Network into 2 more states. We're going into South Australia in the next couple of months, and then Western Australia immediately after that. Then I've got the year of empowerment. I like to have a power word. So empowerment is my power word for the year. So I want to empower my staff to be able to do more without my involvement so that they can actually get on and do things so I don't become the bottleneck within my business. I want to empower some successful former students into key roles within the Property Developer Network community. So I want to empower them to be event coordinators and actually run events when I'm not able to be there so that I can then grow into more states. That allows me to be in more places than humanly possible because I've got other people that are empowered to actually be me when I'm not able to be there. I want to empower some of those students to also become mentors within our program. They've actually got success on the board. They're following our systems and our methodologies and that sort of thing. So we want to bring them back and enable that to scale so we can go into more and more states to actually help that out. And also empower some of those students to also be deal finders. I also want to empower my community. That's you guys. I want to empower you with new course offerings. By me empowering my staff and by me empowering my students, that frees up my time so that then I can then go write more course content. So I'm going to write more little mini courses. So I'm going to be writing courses on how to do funding, how to do no and low money down, how to do options, joint ventures, and things like that. As a matter of fact, I've already written one of those. It's a free course that's going to be released next month. So watch out for that. It's coming to you very, very soon. Then we're going to be slowly, progressively rolling out some of these mini courses over the next year. So it's going to take a little while to create them, record them, and then actually get them out. And then the big exciting one is I want to create what is called an experiential holiday for the PDN community. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to combine a course that we get skills, mindset, and then at the end of it, a bucket list activity. So for example, We might do something where we go and walk the Kokoda Trail. We might go and do some zero gravity things. We might go and do some fire walking, things like that. But we're actually going to combine that into a single event so that you can experience the bucket list activity that you want to do to actually reinforce the very things that you actually want to do within your goals, etc. So that's what I'm doing over the next little while to empower that mission statement that I actually had. Now, I can already hear some of you asking, well, how the hell do you come up with that big, hairy, audacious goal that you actually came up with? That's a huge, huge thing. Well, that came from many, many years ago. I guess a coach I had at the time, Tony, pushing me to the point of saying, hey, Rob, this is something that you really love to do. Why don't you set yourself a goal that is so big that most people are going to believe that it's not possible, but you yourself know that it actually can be done if we break it down into these simple steps following the methodologies that I already do. So that's a BHAG. It's something that nobody else will believe is possible, but you yourself believe can be done, okay? So how do I do this? Well, that's exactly what we're going to cover today, is how we actually break that down so that you can create your own BHAGs and then go and do that. So, but you don't have to have just a BHAG. I want you to be able to do this for every single one of the goals that you actually set up. Okay, now in order to do this, I have a mantra. So this is my mantra, okay? So a dream written down becomes a goal. A dream not written down is just a fantasy. The number of times that we just think about something and never write it down on paper, okay? It's amazing how many times we think it but don't actually write it down. So we don't capture it somewhere. Then the goal broken down becomes a plan. How many times have you actually gone to the effort of writing it down, but then don't actually break it down into the individual steps? But a goal not broken down just becomes a wish, okay? So how many times have we wished something to actually occur? A plan then backed by action becomes reality. And then lastly, a plan not backed by action is just a piece of paper. So that is written by yours truly. That is my success mantra. And I want you guys to actually live and breathe this. This is super important, folks. The number of times we think something but don't write it down, or we do write it down and we don't break it down, or if we do break it down, we don't actually take the actions. So today is going to be exactly how do we actually unravel that? How do we actually put it together so that you can actually achieve the outcomes that you want to achieve in your business and in your life? Okay, big call, I know, but that's what we're going to do, okay? Now, one of the things from a quote perspective that a famous person, Bill Gates, most of you are actually going to know Bill. What he said is most people overestimate what they can achieve in a year and they underestimate what they can achieve in 10 years. And in my humble opinion, that subtle quote is probably the biggest thing that is actually the disabler of people actually achieving your goals. So in my humble opinion, it's not that we set unrealistic goals, but rather we set unrealistic timelines to achieve these goals. And because of that, it causes us to give up along the way because it takes a long time to actually get momentum. And if we don't get the momentum, if we don't see the success in the timelines that we want, we tend to give up even though we are actually along the right way. So instead, my encouragement to you is to set mini goals or micro goals. These become milestones along the way towards the bigger goal. So we need to break down that bigger goal into the little steps that are proof points and measure points as to how we're actually going to get there along the way. Then what we do is we start to capture those proof points and we start to measure those and we reward ourselves for the success in actually getting there. Now that's very simple to say, but what that then does is it not only does it provide proof that we're moving in the right direction, it reinforces good behaviors, that we're doing the right things. And then when it reinforces the good behaviors, we start to pat ourselves on the back and we start to keep doing more and more of the same thing in order to actually get there. Now, how do we do that? Well, we break that down. We start with the end in mind and we work backwards and we go, how do I do a smaller version of that big thing? And then how do I do a smaller version of that middle-sized thing? And how do I do a smaller version of that, I guess, micro thing until we actually get to the point where we've got these small actionable steps that are very believable and very actionable within very small timelines. That is really the secret of success, okay? So what is a smaller version of that bigger thing that I can do today that will move me towards my goal? Now, here's an example, okay? All of us have eaten a little bit too much over the Christmas break, and we've put on a little bit of pudge around the waist. Well, not all of us. Maybe that's just me. So we set ourselves these big goals that I want to have six-pack abs. I want to be super fit. All those sorts of things. Now that takes a lot of work. Okay, you don't get six-pack abs straight away. But what if we instead created a micro goal? What if we just said, I'm going to get up out of bed and put on my gym shoes? Okay. Now that's a simple micro goal. Now you're going to get up out of bed, put on your gym shoes and go, what the hell am I doing wearing these gym shoes? I better do something about it. I better walk to the end of the block. I better walk to the gym, right? So it's a simple, measurable, easy step that will take us in the right direction. It's a behavior that creates the next step, the next behavior, okay? So if you want to eat healthy, then you don't turn up to a restaurant that serves junk food. You make the smaller decision to say, I'm going to make a simple decision to go to a healthy restaurant. When you make that smaller decision, when you turn up, what's on the menu is good food. What turns up on the bad menu is bad food. So you can't make good decisions later if you didn't make a good decision first. So that's what we want to do, is do those smaller decisions that actually get us along the way. Now, the big challenge here is that most of us think that it is all about just skills and a little bit of effort. Well, I'm going to tell you that unfortunately that's not the case. Skills is probably about 20% of it. The effort is about 30% of it, and the rest of it is mindset. Okay, mindset is the thing. So it's about 50% of everything that we do. Mindset is the thing that actually stops us from doing the things that we want to do. We keep putting little roadblocks inside of our path, and we don't actually do the things that need to happen in order for us to get there. So here is a little, a little map as to what we can actually, how this actually works. So human potential, the potential that we have the potential to run a 10-second mile. We have the potential to run the 1 minute mile, 10-second 100 meters or 1 minute mile. We have that human potential because we've seen other people actually do that. Okay, so we know that's possible. We know that it's possible to do these deals because we see other people doing it. The problem is that we need to take action in order to get there. Now, when we start to do the actions, we start to see the results. And when we start to see the results, we start to believe, and we start to believe, then we start to realize our potential. But in the middle of it is our mind, and our mind starts playing tricks on us, okay? And so if we don't believe that it's possible, then our mind is going to tell us that we'll never get the results, and so we don't take the action. Okay, and so there's these little tripwires inside of our subconscious mind that are going to handbrake us or limit us from actually doing the things that we actually need to do in order to get there. Now, in doing that, there are two parts of the brain. Okay, so there is the conscious brain and the subconscious brain. And as crazy as it sounds, the conscious mind only deals with about 10% of all the things that we actually deal with in life. And your subconscious mind deals with 90%. You see, we have nearly 40,000 synaptic pulses every single second. So how do I move my hand? How do I digest my food? How do I feel the breeze on the back of my hand when I feel the hair move on the back of my hand? All those sorts of things the subconscious mind starts to deal with, and it deals with it in a thing called the reticular activating system, or the RAS, okay? And what the RAS does is it starts to filter for us and make decisions on our behalf as to whether or not we will or won't, push that up to the conscious mind for the conscious mind to actually start to make decisions. See, the conscious mind will look after the logical and the critical thinking, but it can only do that if the subconscious mind presents it. Now, what sits in the subconscious mind is our beliefs, our values, our habits, and a whole bunch of other things that are sitting in there. And so that subconscious mind filters those. And if it doesn't believe that you're going to do things, it won't present that to the conscious mind for you to do anything about that. And so what we want to do is we want to start to break the pattern of that. We want to get into our subconscious mind, we want to start to bubble all of our decisions up to the conscious mind through simple, deliberate actions that will then retrain the reticular activating system, and we want to push that back down to our subconscious mind. So we reinitiate our beliefs and we update our values and we change our habits to do the things that we need to do in order to get the success that we're actually looking for in this process. Now, that sounds super simple, but it's not easy to do. What we have to do is actually set up little patterns in our day that will actually force those things to actually happen. Okay, so that's some of the things we want to do. We want to start to train our brain. Okay, now let's start to have a look at some of these things. So beliefs. Okay, so firstly, a belief or a limiting belief. A belief is a state of mind in which a person thinks something to be the case, whether there's evidence to that the contrary or otherwise. Now, some of us have beliefs around money. We've been told money doesn't grow on trees, those sorts of things, and that starts to filter into the subconscious mind, starting to say, well, if I don't believe it's possible, it's never going to actually happen. So what we need to start to do is we need to start to analyze what our beliefs are, and we need to break them apart. We need to reprogram our beliefs, push them back in there. Now, just by believing these things, we won't do the things that we need to do. So if we believe that we are not worthy of a certain thing happening, then we won't do the things that make us worthy. And so they're the little tricks in order to do this that their mind plays on us, and we want to stop that from happening. So why do we actually have limiting beliefs? Well, firstly, they're from our experiences. So what has actually happened in our world? They come from social conditioning. What society is actually telling us will actually do. They come from education, the education system teaching us particular things. They come from excuses that we may have made, or we may have seen our parents or other family members make. And they come from fear. And it might be fear of failure. It might be fear of success, and a whole bunch of things that actually get there. Okay, so that's the challenge. So what we need to do is, we need to start to think about, well, what are some of the limiting beliefs that are actually going to be stopping us in our property development world? Okay, so some limiting beliefs that might be impacting us. So can't find a suitable deal. Okay, I hear that so many times in my community, it's not funny. I can't find a suitable deal. Well, I'm seeing evidence that other people are finding suitable deals. So suitable deals are out there. So it's about, how do I actually prove my systems to believe that a suitable deal can actually be found? Okay. We procrastinate. We do analysis paralysis. We take way too long to actually do the things that we need to do in order to make the decision to pull the trigger, usually because we're afraid of it. So we're in fear of the development actually failing, even though we see successful developments happening all around us. Every single week in most of the states that we run, well, not most of the states, all the states that we actually run our events, for the last 10 years, we have evidence of people successfully doing developments and making money. Okay, so there's evidence all the way around you that this stuff works, but we need to start to train ourselves that if we put the effort in, then that will actually start to occur. We might be lacking motivation in order to do that. Now, why are we lacking motivation? Because we're afraid of those things to actually that are actually going to happen. We tell ourselves we don't have enough time because we haven't prioritized this being important enough to us in order to progress us all the way forward. We have a lack of self-belief and confidence in the things that we want to do. We have uncertainty, and we can't define our strategy. We have also fear of criticism from others, and we have a lack of self-worth. These are the things, some, not all, these are just some of the limiting beliefs that we see out there inside of our community on a regular daily basis. So I want to help you to crack the code on this, to start to identify these limiting beliefs. And then if you can identify them, we want to find proof points that others are actually achieving it. So then you can start to re-examine this and reprogram that into your belief system. Okay, so how do we actually overcome a limiting belief? So firstly, we need to establish that the belief actually exists. So we need to isolate the belief. We need to seek the source. What is the fear that we've actually got? Now, if it's a fear of a fear of success or a fear of failure, then has something actually happened in our past that has actually triggered that? how do we actually go and actually find what that source of that issue actually was? And we start to isolate that and go, well, was that person actually educated to tell us the advice that they gave us at the time? Maybe they had a limiting belief that then caused them to take particular habits or behaviors or those sorts of things along the way. So we firstly need to isolate what the belief is, seek the source as to how and where it actually came from. Then we want to loosen the belief. We want to recognize the falsehood. We want to recognize that it's not real. We want to recognize that there are people actually getting deals out there and actually finding them every day. There are people who know what their strategies are and know how to do the research to do those things in order to actually get themselves through, okay? And then when we do, we want to create a new belief. We want to form an empowering belief. Start as if it's already happened, okay? Create evidence of success. Demonstrate to your subconscious mind that this in your subconscious mind has already happened. As if it's already done. Okay. So I am a successful property developer. Okay. I can and do find successful deals every single day. So we want to start with those sorts of things in how we start to language our subconscious mind. You see, our subconscious mind, when it's listening to our language, it doesn't recognize the difference between a positive and a negative word. It just hears the rest of the sentence. So if you say, I can't find deals, or I can find deals, it doesn't listen to the find deals part. It just listens to the can't, okay, or the can. Okay, so we want to start to give it the can. So one of the things that will help you to actually massively understand this is to recognize when you are doing negative statements to yourself, okay? So I can't find deals, okay? Now that's a statement. The problem with this statement is your subconscious mind hears that statement and it says, right, that's a fact. Now, as a fact, I'm not going to do any more filtering. From now on, I know that I can't find deals, so therefore there are no deals. I'm not going to go looking for them, okay? What we want to do instead is we want to change that statement into a question. I can't find deals yet. By adding one word, just one word to that statement, I've changed that from a statement into a question. Now that it's a question, your subconscious mind hears the question and goes, well, if I don't know how to do it yet, then there's the possibility that I can learn how to do that. What do I need to do in order to do that? And it starts bubbling information up to the conscious mind to go, hey, you might want to process this because it might be a deal I don't know. So they're the little tricks that you do to actually, retrain those limiting beliefs, but it needs to be a regular, consistent method every single day. You can't just do this as a one-off and go, I'm cured, right? It doesn't work like that. Instead, we need to put in patterns. We need to, like I said before, we need to make those small decisions now that will lead to better decisions a little bit later on. So I'm going to give you a little bit later on in the episode, I'm going to give you a little bit of clues into how we can make those good decisions at the start of the day that will actually set us up for success to do the right thing later on in the day. That's going to give us, so through a thing called a morning routine, we're going to get a morning routine that's going to set us up for success a little bit later, okay? And we're going to change our can't attitude into a can attitude just by looking at that, okay? So we're going to change the can't attitude into a can attitude. Now, the reason for this, okay, this is the subconscious mind at work, okay? We get what we actually focus on, okay? So if we are focusing on the negative thing, then that's what our subconscious mind will find. If we're focusing on the positive thing, that's what our subconscious mind will find. We also get to choose what that thing means, okay? So when I say what that thing means, lots of bad stuff will happen to you along the way, okay? But we get to choose the meaning of that bad stuff, okay? And then we get to choose what we do in order to change that habit, okay? Now, let me give you some examples of that in a sec, okay? But the key here is to start making conscious choices. If we are not making conscious choices, if we're making subconscious choices, it is not going to get us the outcome that we're actually looking for. Now, I said bad stuff happens, okay? And we get to choose the meaning of what that is. So I want to give you a real world, real life example of some bad stuff that has actually happened to me, okay? Now, I have done a lot of things in my life I guess, adventuresome and all sorts of things. But along the way, I've had some incidents and accidents. And unfortunately, I've spent more time in hospital than I would ever like to think. Okay. So in this particular story that I'm going to tell you is about an incident where I had, I guess, quite a significant injury to my back, which created, I guess, a reason for me to have a titanium disc implanted in my back. So that's the titanium disc. I needed to have a battery pack inserted in my back and also some electrodes in my spinal cord. And that battery pack, I have to charge every single day. Okay. So I have a charger. This is my charger, and I have a remote control. And here is my remote control. It's nice and handy because it's always at hand, and I can actually tell what my pain management score is at any point in time, and I can see what my pain score is, and I can see what my battery levels are at any point in time. Now, this incident happened to me. That's a fact, okay? We can't change the fact that it happened, but what we can do is change the meaning of what that actually was. I could use that for a reason. I am permanently in pain. I am every single day I am in pain, and it's only that device, the electrodes in my spinal cord and that battery pack, that actually limit my pain, but they doesn't stop my pain. So I can choose to curl up in the fetal position and say, woe is me, what am I actually going to do with that? Or I can choose for this to be an empowering thing. Now, for me, I've chosen it to be an empowering thing, and I have chosen it to represent something that came from my childhood. This gentleman here, Steve Austin, the $6 million man, for anyone who of you that are out there. Now, the reason why I've chosen the $6 million man is because I guess I am truly bionic. I am the only person that I know with an electrode in my back, with a battery pack in my back, and with a remote control. I'm bionic, okay? I've got more titanium in me that I know what to do with. So that incident is not the only incident that's ever happened to me. Okay, so I've got titanium ball joints, electrical implants, battery packs. I've got a remote control. Okay, I've been truly rebuilt. Physically, I've had 2 knee reconstructions. I've got titanium disc in my back, spinal cord stimulators, screws, pins, staples, stitches, and a whole bunch more. Emotionally, I've been divorced. Okay, so emotionally, I've been rebuilt. And I'm going through a second divorce right now for those of you who aren't actually aware. And financially, I've also been divorced. And so I've been rebuilt physically, emotionally, and financially. And so I know that if I guess, latch onto the belief that I am the $6 million man and that I truly am bionic and I can do anything that I want, then I know that I can actually achieve. Instead of going, oh, woe is me, all these bad things have happened, what am I going to do? And curling up in the fetal position. It's not good, okay? So here is a quote from me, okay? It is your decision and not your condition that will determine who you are and the success that you will achieve. I'm going to repeat that. It is your decision and not your condition that will determine who you are and the success that you will achieve. That, I have to say, is something that on a daily basis, I have to decide, what am I going to do with the information that's actually just been presented to it? What meaning am I going to make this have so that I can choose it to empower me rather than disable me, okay? Key critical things that will actually do that. Now, some of the things that will motivate us as humans is that we will run towards pleasure. Sorry, we will seek pleasure and we'll run away from pain, okay? So every time I have a bad thing happen, I need to work out, how do I actually turn that around into something that is pleasurable? How do I do something that says, how do I actually make that something that I can actually embrace and actually move on to, okay? Now, all of that starts to impact us in all sorts of ways because we start to do these negative statements on us a lot of the time, an amazing amount of time, okay? And so there is this thing called, I guess, above and below the line thinking. And so I want to give you some insights into some of the thinking that you may actually have. So if you are below the line, okay, then chances are you've got a victim mentality, okay? And if you're above the line, you have a victor mentality. So let's have a look at 2 alternative points of view on the very same topic. So you could be a victim or you could be a hero, okay? You could have problems or you could have solutions, okay? You could have excuses or you could get results. You could have scarcity or abundance. You could get stuck or you can have choices. You could react or you can respond. And that, I have to say, that respond is one of the most important things humanly possible. If you can capture the negative statement at the time rather than reacting emotionally, you want to respond and make conscious decisions. That is the key to actually success. You can see that there's failure, or you can recognize that's feedback into how do I learn how to do something better. Okay, you can be very vague or you can be very clear. You can have judgments on things or acceptance that things have actually gone your way. You can blame others for things that have gone wrong, or you can take 100% responsibility for the things that you have actually done. You can feel hopeless, or you can have hope that things are actually going to succeed, or you can have fear or love. All of those things, folks, plus I guess the last one, procrastination or action. What are the things that you're actually going to do? So how do you actually do this? How do you do above the line thinking versus below the line thinking? Well, you need to start to become accountable. You need to calibrate your understanding of what is below the line thinking. You need to actually put steps in place to go, how was I actually thinking? Review your decisions at the end of the day or the start of the day and go, what did I do? How did I actually behave poorly? Okay. Recognize when you're falling below the line and try to catch yourself in the moment. Now, it's impossible first go to catch yourself in the moment. It just can't be done. But what we can do is if we put a process in place for either start of the day or the end of the day and review how our day actually went, we can actually go back in time and say, hey, look, at lunchtime today, I was below the line. Okay. So there's a lot of hours behind when you do. Then tomorrow you do the same process and you capture yourself maybe doing something in the afternoon. And then the next day you can do the same process and it's maybe late into the evening. And eventually you're actually going to get to the point where you actually capture it in the moment. And when you can capture it in the moment, that is the point when you start to move from reacting to responding. Okay. And responding is where you're actually starting to make conscious choices. You want to be a good partner. So that might be to your business partner, to your loved ones, whatever it is, and actually recognize when they are above and below. And you want to find an accountability partner who will actually call you on your bullshit. Okay. They'll go, hey, that's below the line thinking. I want you to actually think about the way that you are paraphrasing things to yourself and actually start to think in a positive way, not in a negative way. How are you actually going to behave in order to get the outcomes that you're starting to think? Now, when you start to do this, what you're doing is you're bubbling all of these subconscious things to the surface. Okay. You're getting them to the conscious mind. The conscious mind then starts to reprogram and it starts to push the good thoughts back down. As it sounds simple, folks, but it is. Okay. So simple to understand, hard to do. The thing that you need to do is have a habit. Okay. The habit of actually making this actually come through. And you do this habit by actually giving yourself some personal priority. You're going to start to put you first over and above others. Okay. Now that sounds selfish. Okay. It really does, but it's not, because you can't help others unless you can help yourself. Okay. You can't help the poor if you are one of them. Okay. You can't, I guess, change the lives of your family if you can't change your own life. So you need to start putting yourself first. Okay. When you start putting yourself first and prioritizing you over work, you over other people that are actually impacting on the things that you actually start to do, then you start to move towards your goal every single day. Okay. Now, you've probably heard of an analogy where in a jar, I guess you put some big rocks into the jar. Okay. And when you put the big rocks into the jar, you've got big rocks, small rocks, and sand. Okay. And if you start to put the sand in first, okay, and then you start to put the little rocks in, and then you start to put the big rocks in, what you find is that the rocks fall out of the jar. They don't actually fit. But if you do it the other way around, okay, if you put the big rocks in, you are the big rocks. If you put the big rocks in, then what you find is when you put the little rocks in, then that starts to fill in the gaps of all the, I guess, in between all the big rocks. And if you then start to then put the sand in afterwards, which is everybody else, then that fills in the gaps in between the little rocks. And so what you start to do is to say, with the same amount of effort, just by reprioritizing things, I will make myself first. If I put myself first, then others will start to fit around me. Okay. So if I look at this visually, okay, so this is it visually. You put them first, then you put, us next and the rocks don't actually fit. Instead, what we want to do is we want to start to do the other way around. You want to put you first, then I guess the medium-sized rocks go next and the sand goes in after that. That's how you start to actually get yourself success, by putting you first, okay? Now, the putting you first part, okay, you want to start to think about the things that go, well, how do I actually start to be grateful for the things that I am actually doing? I want to be doing the right actions and be grateful for, even though I'm not where I want to be grateful for the things that you are doing along the way. Okay, so there's a little pattern, I guess it's called the circle of gratitude. So the circle of gratitude says that if you have happiness first, that will make you productive and then you will get success. But too many times we start to be the other way around. I will be happy when I get success. And the problem is that if you do that, if you say, I will be happy when I get success, you won't do the productivity. So you need to actually be happy first. That will make you productive. That will give you success. So you need to start to put habits in line to actually start to make that happen. So how do I be grateful for the things that I'm doing every single day? So put grateful, I guess, a gratefulness exercise into your daily routine to actually make that happen. Okay. A gentleman by the name of Jim Rohn says, learn how to be happy with what you've got while you pursue what you want. And I could not agree more with Jim's statement there. Okay. Be happy now. And then as you're doing that, you will start to do the things that will actually get you to where you want to go. Now, all of that said, we haven't yet started to talk about how do we actually get our goals. Okay, now our goals start to become our GPS for where are we going to go. Okay, whether they be a big goal, a small goal, a big, hairy, audacious goal, whatever that is, they start to set the success for where we want to be. They start to I guess, help us to know where we're going. They help us to measure how we're actually tracking along the way, and the like, but only if we actually put processes in place every single day to actually measure that, okay? And if we get off track, we need to have a process to actually determine, like a GPS, that we've gone off direction and we can actually pull ourselves back on, okay? Now, in doing this, one of the things that I notice, is we set ourselves goals that look like this. We want this big, massive goal, this really expensive, fancy car, or this really big holiday, or this really big house, or whatever it is. We set these really big goals, but what we do is we take the steps that give us this sort of outcome, okay? And we're not happy with this outcome as you go. Now, look at me with that outcome. Look at the smile on my face right there and then. That is me taking the little step towards how do I get that really big thing, okay? Now, if you're having big goals, but only taking little actions and not actually being grateful for that as you go, then you'll never actually get to where you want to go. So what I want to do is give you a process in how you actually start to capture your goals across all areas of your life, not just the financial successes that you're looking for, because that's where most of us actually want to go. But in all areas of our life, we want to have a well-rounded life. Okay. As a matter of fact, there are 8 key categories. There's business or career, depending upon how there's finance and wealth, fun and adventure, health, happiness, socials and friendships, love and relationships, spirituality, growth and learning. We want to be happy across all of those areas. We want to start to, on a regular basis, we want to start to reflect, okay? So not only where are we now, but where do we actually want to start to go? And when we start to reflect past, present, and future, what I want you to do is start to do a little exercise where you do a graph that looks a little bit like this, with a score of 1 to 10. And each of those 8 areas, what you're going to do is you're going to give yourself a score. And you go, in growth and happiness, I'm about a 5, okay? In business, I'm around about a 3, for example. And you start to map out where it is that you're actually going, and then draw the line to draw it together. And it's going to give you an insight into where are you right now, okay? Now, this right now measure it's just a fact. It's where you are, okay? You can't change where you are, but you can change where you're going. So what you should then do is start to reflect, where do I want to be? Where do I want to be in 5 years' time, okay? So you want to understand what went well. You want to understand what do you want to actually start to do differently. You want to actually understand what scorecard that you want that to look like in 5 years' time. And on that exact same wheel, what I want you to do, okay, is I want you to map over the top of that, where do I want to be, okay? So I want to be, I guess, a 9 in the growth and learning. I want to be 7s or 8s in the business and career. Map it out as to how and where you want to be, and have a look at how they overlap and look where the gaps are. Now, based on where the gaps are, I can see that my social and friendships are great, my love and relationships are great, but I'm lacking in my financial wealth, and I'm lacking in my growth and learning, and I'm lacking in my spirituality. So that's where I want to start to focus where my goals are actually going to go, okay? So I want to then start to build lists of what are the things that I want to do differently in those areas. What are the things that I want to do that's actually going to take me towards that outcome, okay? So I don't have to put huge amounts of effort into the things that I'm already doing really well. Instead, I want to start to focus on the areas where I'm not. And if I start to do that, okay, who or what would I like to be in that area of my life? What am I willing or wanting to do to make this a reality? Now, willing and wanting, that's a key critical element. And what would I like to have in this area of my life? This is super critical, okay? So in each of those key areas, start to map out, start to give yourself a list, start scoring things, okay? So write down what the goal is. Step 1, capture what the goal is in that green box. I want you to start to write down all the things that you're going to do to change the score from a 3 to an 8, okay? Write it down. Give every single one of those goals a number, okay? So number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, etc. And lastly, score the goals in blue, okay? Now, you'll see there's a D, there's a B, and there's a T. This is super critical. This is the difference between fantasies and wishes and actual genuine goals, okay? So the D is the desire. So give yourself a score on the desire. What is my desire to actually get that? A score of 1 to 10, okay? What is my belief that I can actually achieve that? Okay. So the belief is based on your reality, based on your circumstances to date. Okay. And then the T is the total. How do I actually start to get that? So for every single one of these, you want to start to map it out. Okay. Now, how you score these, your 1 to 10, okay, is completely up to you. Okay. Now, this is a little bit tongue in cheek. Okay. But it's very deliberate. So from a desire, okay, I've scored a 1, not sure how I even thought this was a goal. Number 2, somebody mentioned it to me once, so it sounded good to me, okay? All the way through to number 10, I'm on a mission from God and nothing will stop me. You want to give yourself some scores in these areas. Now, you don't have to use my scoring system, but, from a belief perspective, I don't know where to start. Number 2, my mum believes in me, okay? Number 3, it can't be that hard, right? How can I achieve those things? So start to score it all the way through to I can taste it, and this is my calling in life. When you start to do that, what it's going to give you is the ability to start to map out those priorities, okay? Every single one of those goals that you've actually mapped out, you're going to start to score them, and you're going to start to put them on a graph. Simple, easy graph. Now, the graph has a desire matrix, so desire down the bottom and belief up the top. And as you start to map it out, okay, some examples of this would be, if you have a goal that is in this quadrant here, okay, it means that you lack the desire and you lack the belief. You don't really want it. And even if you did want it, you don't believe you can get it. So it's amazing how many times that we start to score ourselves in this area. So is this truly your goal? If it's not, chuck it away. It is wasting space and energy in your head. It is wasting energy in your belief system because of the fact that you've got all these goals that you're just never achieving and don't believe that you can achieve. So it's burning energy that's reinforcing your negative behaviors, okay? If you fall into this category here, then you have the belief that it's possible, but you just don't have the desire that you want it. So again, why the hell is it consuming space in your head? Get it out of the system, flush it from your brain, just get it out, get it gone, okay? If you are in this quadrant here, okay, then in this instance, you have a limiting belief. You have the desire, you want it, but you recognize that you have a belief, a limiting belief that's actually stopping you from getting it. This is an opportunity for you to work with a coach. This is an opportunity for you to actually unlock the thing that is actually stopping you from doing the action. You now have a clear course of action as to how and what I do in order to get there. Okay, so go get yourself a coach. Go get yourself someone who's actually going to give you the belief in actually doing that. Okay, they're going to identify what the limiting belief is. They're going to give you proof points that it is a falsehood, and they're going to give you actions to actually start to reinforce the true belief that you actually have that's actually sitting in there. And lastly, if you're up in this quadrant up here, the final quadrant, this is the sweet spot. Okay, this is where you have a strong desire and a strong belief that it can actually be done. You want to start to concentrate on these ones today. Okay, now if you concentrate on these ones today, you're going to start to get success. And as you start to get success, you're going to start to reward yourself for that success. It's going to reinforce that, hey, the behaviors that I'm doing, the actions that I'm taking, the things that I want to actually get where I'm going, I believe that I can actually start to do it. And what it starts to do is your limiting beliefs start to bubble away and disappear, because you're starting to see evidence of success that, hey, if I take the action, it's actually going to start to happen. And what will happen is that this area here where the limiting beliefs are they're going to start to bubble up as your beliefs in yourself start to get reinforced, not only by the recognition of your own successes, but also by working with your coach to actually get you the outcomes that you're actually wanting to get. So that, folks, is a really great way to break down what is a fantasy into a true goal, and to understand your true goals and say, what are the things and the roadblocks that are actually stopping me from actually getting to where I want to go? Okay. Now, once you've got those goals, once you've got the priorities actually mapped out, okay, you want to do the ones that are closest to the top right-hand quadrant as much as humanly possible. When you start to do that, you want to start to break it out. And you've probably heard the expression before, into a SMART goal. Okay. So SMART is specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound, okay, or timely. Okay, you've heard that before, but the problem is that we've tried to put SMART goals into systems that aren't necessarily the goals that we want, and so we've failed because we've concentrated on the wrong goals. Okay, so we've reinforced bad behaviors because we've concentrated on the wrong goals, the ones that weren't truly the ones that we wanted. They weren't truly the ones that we believed in. So we didn't get the success. So it reinforced our bad behaviors. So it then said, well, I'm not going to do that. So even the ones that we do believe in, we don't take the action there. Okay. Now, the thing with SMART goals is that even SMART goals are not smart enough, okay? Sometimes they are too big, so we need to break them down into smaller, measurable pieces as we start to go, okay? Sometimes we've got too many. If we've got too many, it can be overwhelming, and that's why prioritizing them into that sweet spot, what are the ones that I actually want to work on? Just the key ones that are actually super important to me right here, right now, okay? They're not written down. I touched on it before. If it's not written down, it's just a fantasy. If we don't break it down, then it's not a plan. And if we don't action it, it's never going to happen. So we want to start to write it down and then break it down. It's not specific. We just say, hey, I want to be a successful property developer. But we don't say, how do we want to become a successful property developer? We don't say what strategy we want to do. We don't say where we want to actually make it happen. Okay. We're unable to measure our progress because we weren't specific, okay? Because we made it super vague. There's no way to actually measure our progress along the way, okay? So sometimes it's outside of our capability and skill set for now, okay? So we've made it too far into the future, too big a stretch. We can't actually do that. So we want to make a much smaller stretch, okay? So a little bit like an elastic band. If you stretch an elastic band and you let it go, it actually becomes bigger than it was originally. And if you stretch it again, then it comes bigger again. Now, if you try to stretch it too much, it will snap, okay? And when it snaps, it stings and it hurts and that sort of thing. So we want to slowly stretch and slowly stretch. And every single time we want it to be just within reach and grab it and pull it back in. Super important that we can actually do that. And it's also sometimes our SMART goals are not aligned to our values or purposes, okay? So if it's not going to serve our values, again, it's not going to serve why are we pursuing it in the first place. So super important that we actually start to do that. So let's start to have a look at how to break down a SMART goal, okay? So It's no point actually saying, I want to be a successful property developer. Okay. I want to be successful in property development. That is not a smart goal. Okay. Instead, what we want to be is specific. I want to do small scale land subdivisions in Brisbane City Council, for example. Okay. We want it to be measurable. How much profit am I going to make? 500K net profit. Okay. It needs to be achievable. Yes, it's within reach of my skill sets right here, right now, and what I know is actually possible to actually occur. So I'm not going for $1 million on my very first deal. I'm going for a deal that is the right size for my skill set right here, right now. Okay. It's relevant so that I can, what is my purpose? So that I can spend time with my family and do the things that we love to do. So that I can, provide for my loved ones. So that I can go on that holiday. You want to make it relevant to yourself. Okay. In some way, shape, or form. And you want to have it timed, have a time bound. So give it a date, an actual hard date. Then what we want to do is we're going to start to put all of that together into the actual SMART goal that we can then start to, have as an affirmation on an ongoing daily basis. So I can turn that into a sentence. I'm going to make 500K net profit over the next 4 years before the 31st of December 2025 through small scale land subdivisions in the Brisbane City Council. Okay. Now I noticed the typo there. I didn't get my number of years right. So that's 3 years, not 4. But you get the idea. Now I've got an affirmation. That SMART goal has now become an affirmation that I can now, on a regular and consistent basis, every single day inside my daily routine, I can actually go to that and I'm going to start to recite that and chant that and write that and do the things that I need to do to make sure that every single day that becomes part of my subconscious thinking in how and what I'm actually going to do along the way. Okay. The next thing we want to do is we want to start to then create an action plan. How am I going to do that? What am I going to do to break that down? Okay. So a good action plan needs to capture the goal in a single succinct sentence. We just did that there in that SMART goal. Okay. It needs to capture the measure of your success. It needs to be measurable. If it's not measurable, how do you know that you actually got there? Okay. It needs to have a defined exact thing that you can go tick. Yes, I got that. Thank you very much. Okay. It maps out the work that needs to happen to actually become accomplished. So how do I become that small scale property developer? Well, I know what the skills are. I know that I want to do subdivisions. I know the council that I want to learn. So I can start to map out, well, I need to learn that council set of rules. I need to learn that council set of rules for subdivisions. I need to know what the minimum lot sizes is right there. So I can actually break it down into smaller bite-sized chunks. And that's super important, okay? You can then put together a schedule of those bite-sized chunks. I'm going to do this one before I do that one, before I do the next one. That's going to measure as I go along the way. Okay. So how I do that is I'm going to start with the end in mind and start to work backwards. Okay. So I want to break it down into how do I do a smaller version of that thing? How do I do a smaller version of that thing? How do I do a smaller version? And every single one of those smaller things start to become milestones and measuring points along the way that I'm actually going to achieve the things that I want to do. So what do I need to do in the next 5 years? What do I need to do in the next 2 years? What do I need to do in the next year? What do I need to do in the next 6 months? What do I need to do in the next month? Now, you saw right at the start of this presentation me showing you what my big, hairy, audacious goal is. Okay. That was a 12-year plan for me when I put that together. And I then showed you what am I going to do in the next year to actually make that happen. So I've got 6-month goals and I've got 3-month goals and I've got what am I actually going to do tomorrow to move me towards that every single day. So every day I get up and I go, what is the action that I'm taking that is going to get me towards where I actually want to go? Okay. What am I going to do in the next fortnight, the next week? What am I going to do tomorrow? What am I going to do today? Okay. What does that start to look like? Okay. That starts to become milestones, as I said, along the way. And for every single milestone that you do along the way, you want to start to put some measure of success to prove to yourself that you've actually done that. So make sure it is measurable and then start to reward yourself as you go. Ask yourself exactly what is that I want to do? What are the things that are going to get in my way and stop me from doing that? Put a plan in place around the things that are going to get in your way. So if it's limiting belief, get yourself a coach. If it's skills, get yourself a mentor. If it's maybe do a course or something along those lines. What are the things that are getting in your way? Learn. Do the things that you need to do. Have a buddy that's actually going to sit there. Ask yourself how you're going to overcome that and how you're going to start to build that confidence as you go. So coaching, mentoring, education, they're the things that are going to reinforce that. Maybe a buddy that actually sits there. Then you want to start to celebrate your success, okay? So if you start to celebrate your success for every single one of those milestones, you need to have a way of reinforcing that you did a good job. It's the little pat on the back that says, well done, Rob, you're on the right way. It reinforces that good behavior, okay? It develops a success mindset. It gives you motivation. It makes you feel good, and it reinforces your belief in actually achieving your goal. It proves that you're going in the right direction. You want to make sure that you share your successes and you start to create memories that when you start to look backwards and you go, look how far I've come. I can't believe where it is that I've actually come from. You can actually measure those steps along the way, okay? So start to find the things right now that are the bad habits that are stopping you from doing things. If you've got procrastination that's getting in your way because you love to binge on Netflix, then flip that habit. Don't make Netflix the bad habit. Instead, turn that into the reward. I am going to binge one season of whatever episode or whatever your favorite show is. I'm going to binge that when I achieve this milestone, okay? That way you're reinforcing good behaviors. Hey, I've earned this binge, okay? It's something that I actually want to do. I'm not going to go out and get pissed with my mates every single day of the week. No, instead, I'm going to go out with my mates when I've achieved this particular milestone. You want to start to map that out. You want to start to measure some of the things. You want to start to have small, medium, and large reinforcements, okay? Ways to actually celebrate your success. Now, for me personally, some of the things that I have done to reward myself for my successes along the way. And when you start to hear some of these things, you're going to go, oh my goodness, Rob, how the hell have you done that? And it's by doing exactly what I've actually told you. So I went to the Olympics. I went to the Sydney Olympics and I spent $10,000 on tickets alone, including going to the opening ceremony. I have swum with dolphins in Hawaii doing tricks where you're holding onto the dorsal fins and actually getting dragged along, where they're getting their nose and pointing at them into your feet and pushing you out of the water. I've got my skydiving ticket. I can pull my own ripcord. I've done a course where I can actually not do a tandem, but actually jump out of a plane all by myself. I've driven monster trucks, okay? I've driven monster trucks over other cars, okay? I've whitewater rafted in a whole bunch of places. I've gone in hot air balloons in all sorts of places. I've helicoptered to the top of snow-covered mountains and made snow angels at the top of the mountain. I've helicoptered over live volcanoes as they're spewing live lava out. I've swum with sharks in Hawaii. I used to race speedway. And as a matter of fact, just last week, Wednesday last week, I went and had a race day, a track day at Luddenham Raceway, where I was, thrashing a race car around the track for the entire day. So I reward myself for the good behaviors that I do. Now, I also do little things. I stop and have coffee. I catch up with mates. I do the things that I need to do to reinforce my behaviors along the way. I want you to start to build a list. Your list needs to be a cup of coffee. It needs to be an afternoon off. It needs to be, how do I have, movies with my loved one? How do I go out to dinner with my loved one? I want you to build a list of at least 100 things, small, medium, and large, that are going to help you to start to celebrate your successes along the way. Make sure you do this, okay? And then you start to allocate that to the activities that you need. You've got all these activities you've mapped out, okay? So if you've analyzed 5 suburbs, then do the night off binging your Netflix, okay? You've earned it. Go do that. If you've contacted 10 agents about, hey, what opportunities you've got, go and have your morning coffee with your friend, okay? If you've made an offer on the property, even if it's been rejected, have a night out at the movies. Go and reinforce that, okay? If you've landed a deal, go and celebrate the fact that you have banked money. Even though you've got a process to get there, go and celebrate that you've banked money. Go and have dinner with your loved one and go and actually celebrate that success. Even though you've still got work to do, you want to celebrate the fact that that is money in the bank for you. It just hasn't physically materialized yet. Go do those things. If you do those things, you're going to get there. Now, let me show you one of my goals that is for this year, okay? So this year, I want to go and do zero gravity weightlessness. Okay. So I'm going to fly to the US and I'm going to go in a thing called the Vomit Comet. This thing will actually allow me 15 flights, 15, 10, 15 flights where I have zero gravity as we fly for about 5 hours. Okay. So this is going to be my reward for my success because I am progressing towards those 1,000 people financially free. I know that I'm going to get there, and I want you guys to start to come along. I'm going to start to create experiential events that take big ticket bucket list items just like this. I'm going to get you guys to come on those because I want to teach you what can be done. I want to teach you how it can be done. I want to show you what success looks like and how you start to reward yourself for doing that. And if you want to come on those experiential events with me, and I've just lost where my mouse is. If you want to come on those experiential events with me, smash into the chat window. Rob, these are the things I want to do. These are the places I want to go. Do we want to go firewalking? Do we want to go active, walk the Kokoda Trail? Do we want to climb to base camp of Everest? What are the things that we want to do to measure the success that we've actually had along the way? I want to hear from you guys what that starts to look like. So build yourself a rewards list. Now, all of that so far leads up to a whole bunch of tasks, but now what we've got to do is we've got to put this into action, okay? We want to start to create ourselves a habit that every single day starts to reinforce these things for us. It's a morning routine, okay? A morning routine sets the tone for the whole day. And if you can get your day right, then you will do your week right. And if you can do your week right, you'll do your month right. And if you can do your month right, you'll do your year right. And if you can do your year right, you'll get your life right. So doing the small little things, getting a morning routine to actually start to put these little steps into place is exactly what you need to do to actually get there. Now, your morning routine might be different to mine, but some of the things that I do is I will do a morning exercise. I will get my heart pumping. I will start to, get the blood racing, and I'll start to do the things that I need to do to kickstart my body to actually do the things that I need to do. I will reflect on how my achievements for yesterday went, okay? Now, remember that I said I also want to set my priorities for how I want today to go, but tomorrow I'm going to reflect back on today. What that does is, whilst we might have missed that moment where we stuffed up, where we might have missed it and not captured it in the moment, it means that we're going to reflect on it tomorrow. We're not going to beat ourselves up, but instead what we're going to do is we're going to start to reflect and learn. Okay, I did something bad at 10 a.m. in the morning. I didn't quite follow my plan. I got deviated. I didn't do the things that I wanted to do. Instead of responding to something, I reacted. Now, by reflecting on that and learning from that, I can now put different behaviors in. And when I put my priorities for today are, how am I going to do that a little bit better? Okay. How am I going to make myself a better version of me today than I was yesterday? And if you do that every single day, if you get slight improvements on who you are, where you want to go, how that's going to go, you are going to become a better person, okay? You want to have affirmations, okay? So an affirmation is a positive statement that's going to help you, to overcome the challenges of self-sabotage and limiting beliefs and those sorts of things. So those limiting beliefs that you put in place, you want to put positive affirmations in place, okay? Some of those affirmations are going to be your SMART goals, okay? You're going to repeat them often, and you're going to start to believe in them, and you're going to start to make positive changes. You're going to start to do a routine called visualization. You're going to start to imagine yourself in the future in that situation where it has already happened, okay? I am a successful property developer. Now, imagine yourself being a successful property developer. What does that start to look like? You want to not just imagine it, but you want to start to feel it. You want to start to feel the emotions that actually start to sit in it. Okay, when you start to do that and get yourself a mental image of it, I then want you to start to journal your gratitude. Okay, so what are the things that you are grateful for today? What are the things that you have achieved? What are the things that you've recognized are going well in your life? What are the things that you are going to reward yourself for because you've done well? What are those things? And for some of you, that will involve meditation as well, okay, where you can actually start to center yourself and ground yourself and actually set yourself up for success. Now, for those of you who've never done, I guess, visualization routines or affirmations, okay, so some of the things that you can do for visualizing is you start to see it, okay? In your mind, you want to start to see it. So you want to start to write your goal down and you want to visualize you in that moment, okay? What does the moment look like when you give that resignation speech to your boss or you hand in that resignation? What does that look like? Imagine the emotion that is actually going to sit in there. You want to say it. You want to say it out loud. Repeat the affirmation. I am a positive, I am a successful property developer. I am going to achieve 500K by doing small scale subdivisions in Brisbane by the year 2025. Okay, do those things on a regular basis. Share it. Tell your friends, tell your family. Find yourself an accountability buddy that you can actually report into, because do you know what's going to happen when you share it? When you tell others, they're going to check in on you. Hey, Rob, how are you going? You said you were going to do this. I've just said to you, I'm going to write a book. I've just said to you, I'm going to go into South Australia and WA. I've told you I'm going to fly in zero gravity. I've told you those things. I'm sharing it with you. Now you guys are going to hold me accountable. Hey, Rob, when's South Australia opening? Hey, Rob, when's Western Australia opening? Hey, Rob, I can't wait to read your book. I now am motivated to actually do that, okay? It is super powerful, the impact of accountability, okay? You want to start to sense it. You want to feel it. You want to create the motions. What does it look like? What does it feel like to hold up your own book with a picture of your own face on it? What does that start to look like, okay? When you can start to do that, you're going to start to believe in yourself. You're going to start to have that self-belief, okay? Now, some property affirmations, okay? And I might do a share on this one, some property affirmations that might help you, okay? You might have other ones that you want for yourself, but I believe in myself and my ability to create property success. I act with courage and confidence in my negotiations. I'm prepared to take action to bring my property dream into reality. I am time rich and have all the time necessary to be a successful property developer. I set and achieve challenging and worthwhile goals. I evaluate problems quickly and I can solve them easily. I live in the present and I am confident of the future, okay? All of those things are super powerful, but you're going to create your own affirmations to deal with your own limiting beliefs. What are the things that you need in order to get there? Now, one parting gesture that I want to give you is a quote from Muhammad Ali, okay? We set these giant goals, these giant aspirations, okay? And we know that we want to get there. But Muhammad Ali's quote is, it isn't the mountains ahead to climb that wear you out, but rather it's the pebble in your shoe, okay? So what are the things that you need to do at a very small scale? What are the little things that you need to do to get those little annoyances out of the way? What are the things that you need to do on that daily routine every single day to go, you know what, I need to take that pebble out of my shoe so that I can actually walk that extra mile, so I actually climb that mountain, so I can do the things that I need to do to actually get myself there. Now, to do that, I highly recommend that you have a coach for your mindset. I highly recommend that you have a mentor for your skill set. I highly recommend that you educate yourself in the strategy that you want to achieve in order to get to where you want to go. And I highly recommend that you have a buddy that's actually going to hold you accountable for the things that you've said that you want to do. So folks, there you have it. That is how you set big, hairy, audacious goals, big dreams, and actually take the actions that you need in order to get there. So hoping that you guys got plenty out of that, I am going to try and go to Facebook land now and see if any of you have any questions. Now, when I do this, quite often, it does create a little bit of chat. So give me 2 seconds. Okay, I can't see any questions coming through. Facebook is not giving me that feed. I can see a lot of you online. I can see a whole bunch of you, but no questions are actually coming through. So let me see if I can change. Oh, here they come. All right, there's a bucket load now. Okay. So Vicky says 2023 has already started off with a bang. So can't wait to hear tonight and make 2023 bigger. Thanks, Rob. Looking forward to hearing your approach. Hoping that helped, Vicky. Luke Moroney says, exciting, Rob. Thank you, Luke. Can't wait that. Love a firewalk, Luke says. Mate, I'm going to make that happen, mate. There will be firewalks happening sometime this year on one of those experiential things. So Harry says, Me too, Rob. 6 kilograms. You want to lose 6 kilos? Well, good, Harry. What are the things you're going to do to make that happen, mate? Put your gym shoes on. Do the little things that are going to take you there. Okay. Make the right decisions. Choose the right restaurants to go to so that healthy food choices are in front of you. Harry says, fantastic information. Tony says, today started with goals and planning discussion. It's ending with another great presentation on goals and setting myself up for success. Thank you, Tony. Really appreciate that. Vicky says, the power of yet is something I taught my son in grade 1. Love it. Good to refresh for ourselves, though. That's good to hear. Scott says, mindset is the number one thing holding us back. Well, not anymore, Scott. You've got all the tools at your disposal, mate. So no excuses now. Tony then says, I can hear the $6 million man music in my mind. Me too, mate. I can't sing. You get the idea. Tony says again, a challenge to do. I agree. I know changing the language I use is important to keep me above the line. Teresa says, wow, thank you. I really appreciate that. Celebrate success list is a must. Tony, sounds great. Thank you, Rob. Michael says, I want to do that. I'm assuming you mean the zero gravity, mate. I'm going to make that an experiential thing, mate. That is going to be an experiential holiday. We are going to do something. Might not be this year, might be next year, but we're going to run a 3 or 5 day workshop. We're going to go to the US, and that is going to be the culmination of that. That is on the to-do list. I'm going to do a small version of that this year. We're not going to do zero gravity this year. We're going to do something to encourage you guys. Remember, small steps to get to the big step. Then we're going to do that big, massive step next year. I promise you that's going to happen. Now, Teresa says a spa session will be on my list. Didn't hear that on Rob's list. I love spa sessions, Teresa. Happy for you to shout me a spa session. Thank you very much. Teresa also says the reflection matters. The 1% growth adds up. Absolutely. 1% plus 1% plus 1% adds up. Scotty says, I'm thinking of the most outrageous rewards now. You're welcome, mate. I can't wait to hear them. Punch in your rewards into the list. I want to hear what they are. I want to know what your big, hairy, audacious rewards are, right? What are they? What are your big goals? Jam them into the comments, folks. I want to know. Connie says, recommended listening to Dr. Joe Dispenza's visualization sessions. Thank you, Connie. I will go look that up. Teresa says, Dr. Joe Dispenza's books is great. Would be incredible to be one of his events. Thank you. And Felicity says, I don't know what the name Vomit Comet is really selling the concept to me. It's just a name, Felicity. You won't vomit, I promise. Dan says, great. Oh, hang on. I've lost a great session, Rob. Thank you, mate. Tony says, great session. Viv says, fantastic session, Rob. Extremely valuable. Thank you so much. You're welcome, Viv. And Joanna says, great session. 2023 starts with real estate marketing uncertainty, making property development even more interesting. Bring it on. Thank you, folks. That has been everything from me. Hope you have enjoyed that session. As we have no more questions, I'm going to say thank you. Bye for now. And I've got a bucket load of things coming up in the not too distant future, including a whole one-day event. If you guys have on your list, that you want to learn property development, I've got a one-day event coming up called Developer Launchpad. That's going to happen on the 11th of February. So mark the date, put a placeholder in place. It's going to happen. And until then, folks, I'm going to say bye for now. Bye.